Well, good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock, so we're going to get started. Thank you for all that you do and for lengthening your day by joining us for this conversation about the state of STEM career opportunities and very practical classroom strategies to introduce your students to STEM professionals with a wide range of skill sets, required levels of higher education, and types of jobs. We are recording this evening. You'll receive the links to the recording, a resource document which lists all of the URLs that we're showcasing this evening, and a link to the slides also in an email that comes out tomorrow from Zoom about 7 o'clock. It's from Zoom and from me, Carolyn Jacobs. And those links will also be posted by Angelica, who's in the chat, who's keeping tabs on things, and will make sure we get to your questions and post links as we're moving along. We are recording this evening. I already mentioned that. I write that multiple times just to remind me to push the recording button. So I'm glad we are recording. And let's see, I want to. Okay, another tip is that in the chat, your default might be set to just panelists and hosts. So please change that to everyone unless you really just want to private message us so that everyone can see your comments. I'm Carolyn Jacobs. I'm in GBH Education Department, and we are hosted by GBH this evening, Boston's public media station, of course, and the co-producer and co-founder of PBS LearningMedia, which we hope is your go-to site for digital resources for K-12 across the curriculum, but we are very, very strong in science and STEM. PBS LearningMedia is where you will find many of the resources that the teachers will showcase this evening. And of course, the site is free. Our presenters this evening are fittingly very immersed in STEM. Kicking it off is Patrika Wood-Blaine. Patrika, excuse me a second. Currently, Patrika is the assistant head of school at the John D. O'Brien School of Mathematics and Science in part of Boston Public Schools, where she leads 3 distinguished STEM pathways in biomedical science, computer science, and engineering. In 2020, she earned the Project Lead the Way Leader of the Year Award for her dedication to STEM education. Welcome, Patrika. Paula Halligan is a middle school science and STEM educator, teacher leader, and Google trainer. And before coming to Worcester Public Schools, she taught science in Northern California and Colorado. She takes special pride in introducing urban students to their natural world. Paula is a current GBH Educator Ambassador and has served as a teacher advisor for several GBH and PBS LearningMedia projects. On the weekends, you can find Paula biking on many of the trails in central Massachusetts with her binoculars ready to go. Francis Pina, unfortunately, is not able to join us this evening. He had a family emergency. We're very disappointed, but he would like to record his session when things settle down for him, and we will make that available to you. We might even be able to edit it into the recording. So we are going to give you a little snippet of what Francis was going to talk about. And he's a middle school math teacher, formerly a high school math teacher in Charlestown Public Schools in Massachusetts. Kara Pekarsik is a veteran science teacher at North Quincy High School in Massachusetts. She combines her background in marine science with her love for teaching biology and zoology. She was named the 2018 Massachusetts Teacher of the Year, received the BioGenius Mentor Award from the Biotechnology Institute in 2019. Kara is currently working towards a doctoral degree at Walden University to understand more about career exploration in STEM curriculum. That's very apropos to tonight. Kara also serves as a GBH Educator Ambassador. Patrika is going to kick things off to give us the current landscape and she'll be followed by Paula. I will come on in Francis's place just for a minute, and then Kara will wind things down, and I'll come back on at the very end for some final remarks. Along the way, you will be asked to reflect and react in the chat, so we hope that you are active and enjoy the presentation. So thank you very much, and I'm going to turn things over to Patrika.
Good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to kick off tonight's webinar on strategies to help students see themselves in STEM. As an assistant head of school, I am responsible for all of the STEM initiatives at the O'Brien School of Mathematics and Science. And as a result, I spend the majority of my day planning, supporting, or facilitating opportunities for students to have access to rigorous STEM instruction and engaging STEM activities. Through our many partnerships, I believe in the power of an image, giving students the opportunity to see themselves in STEM. And the educators that are going to speak with you tonight will share how they create an image or vision for their students so that they can begin to see themselves as scientists, researchers, engineers, doctors, and mathematicians. I'd like to begin this evening with a poll so that we can get a sense of who is here with us. And the first poll question is, what is your earliest STEM memory? When you think back to your childhood, when is the first time that you remember being exposed to science, technology, engineering, or math? Making a potato clock, watching Jack Cousteau with my father, doing a report on Jane Goodall in 4th grade. Awesome. Making a video game with my dad in preschool. Wow. I think I remember in 5th grade programming a rover, learning how to program a rover. You know, you take 5 steps forward, 2 steps to the right, 1 step back. Very simple. Well, thank you all for sharing your early STEM memories with us. So let's set the stage for tonight's conversation by providing some context or background information on the current state of STEM. So, though the United States has historically been a leader in STEM fields, fewer students have been focusing on science, technology, engineering, and math. And as a result, we have a major STEM talent crisis. There simply is not enough STEM-ready workers to meet the ever-growing needs of employers. Next slide, please. So what we're predicting is that by 2025, there will be 3.5 million STEM jobs available, but there are some estimates that up to 2.4 million STEM jobs will go unfilled. New jobs and entirely new fields are being created daily, and we are in the cusp of a technology revolution that includes the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, machine learning, augmented and virtual reality, and blockchain. Estimates suggest that 65% of children entering elementary school today will ultimately end up working in completely new job types that are not on our radar yet. And job seekers have more choice than ever before, and advanced skill sets are in high demand. I really like this diagram because it illustrates how complex the STEM talent gap is. You know, what we perceive to be a single STEM challenge is actually multiple intersecting challenges that leads to the STEM talent crisis. Next slide, please. So let's take a closer look at each of these challenges, starting with the fundamental skills gap. You know, not enough students are developing the skills required to be successful in STEM fields. And as a result, the overall STEM competency of the average American K-12 student does not meet the demand for overall STEM skills in the US labor market. The challenge of K-12 STEM skill development mastery is well documented, and researchers have pointed to many factors, including teacher preparation, curriculum, and available classroom resources as possible reasons why students are not developing the required STEM skills. Next slide, please. Today's STEM jobs require a high level of cognitive skill and ability, and often involve critical thinking, complex and creative problem solving, and ability to adapt. These are all the type of skills that are often developed via traditional STEM disciplines, as well as via forms of teaching and curriculum delivery that emphasize hands-on, project-based learning, like Project Lead the Way that we use at the O'Brien, that is applicable to the real lives of students. While many K-12 schools and post-secondary institutions are adopting different forms of project-based, experiential, and cross-disciplinary learning, these models have not been found in all schools. Luckily, these skills not acquired in school alone, students build such skills through experiences in their home, community-based programs, and through formal extracurricular activities with their families, their peers, and community members. The availability and accessibility of these experiences depends as much or more on the income level as the interests of both students and parents. So our next STEM challenge is the belief gap. About half of adults say the main reason young people do not pursue STEM degrees is because students think these subjects are too hard. I think we, as educators, have all heard the complaint about how hard math and science is. And the question is, why do young people hold these beliefs? And one reason may be because their parents or other adults recall their own struggles with these subjects in math, and somehow they're influencing their ideas. Next slide, please. So according to the US Department of Education, only 16% of high school students are interested in STEM career and have the proven proficiency in mathematics. But currently, nearly 28% of high school freshmen declare an interest in a STEM-related field. And this is all according to the US Department of Education. But by senior year, 57% of them have lost interest. And as students progress through school, it could be that well-meaning guidance counselors may suggest that students who have average performance in math choose other topics to study in college. And once students are in college, entry-level STEM classes often create a sense of imposter syndrome, so that even though students who were really good at STEM in high school, when they get to college, they no longer feel like they can succeed in STEM. And while these beliefs may be true in some circumstances, taken in the aggregate, they are false, and they serve to turn away potential STEM talent at every stage of education. Beyond beliefs about their skills, many young people feel they do not belong in STEM because of their race, ethnicity, gender, or other personal characteristics. And parents, teachers, employers, and others reinforce this belief due to their own maybe conscious or unconscious biases, creating a culture that neither welcomes nor values the contributions of those who are traditionally underrepresented in STEM. In addition, the lack of role models, including teachers and employers who share the same background, contributes to a student or employee's general sense that people like them do not belong in STEM. Next slide, please. Oh, right here. So the third challenge is the post-secondary education gap challenge. Only 35% of Americans hold a bachelor's degree or higher. And the gap is even more pronounced in many STEM fields, where over 90% of all STEM occupations require at least some post-secondary education and training. Next slide. The good thing is that there has been some increase in the percentage of women, African Americans, Latinx that have attained STEM degrees. Unfortunately, the percentage for Native Americans has remained stagnant. Unlike the other racial and ethnic groups described in the data that you're looking at, Asians are overrepresented among STEM degree holders and STEM workers. However, it should be noted that this does not mean that Asians in STEM do not face challenges, including discrimination, harassment, or unfair treatment. Additionally, Asian women in STEM have been described as an invisible minority. Very few Asian women hold advanced positions in STEM, with 90% of those employed in industry working in non-managerial jobs. Our fourth gap leading to the talent crisis is the geographic gap. Access to jobs in high growth and well-paid fields often depends on geography as much as skills, beliefs, and education. Our hubs of economic growth may be geographically far from large concentrations of qualified job seekers, or they may be far from population centers, creating a geographic gap in STEM talent. So if you take a look at this map, you can see that job growth continues to concentrate in urban and metropolitan areas on US coast, as post-secondary requirements for jobs such as a bachelor degree rise and trend. And alongside this upsurge, jobs are projected to steadily shrink across the Midwest and Southern regions by 2026, and which have been widely affected by automation, globalization, labor outsourcing, and industry departure. The fifth and final challenge is the demographic gap. There is a well-documented disproportionate participation in STEM education and careers among people of color and women, and those individuals from low-income backgrounds. This demographic gap remains despite decades of focus on diversity and inclusion across race, ethnicity, gender, socioeconomic status, and other categories. Next slide, please. As a result of the demographic gap, the Obama administration announced in 2009 the Educate to Innovate campaign to motivate and inspire students to excel in STEM subjects. This campaign also addresses the inadequate number of teachers skilled to educate in these subjects. The goal is to get American students from the middle of the pack in science and math to the top of the pack in the international arena. Additionally, in 2019, Congress passed the STEM Opportunities Act of 2019, and this bill provides for guidance, data collection, and grants for groups historically underrepresented in science, technology, engineering, and math education at institutions of higher education and at federal science agencies. So as you can see, despite these efforts, with regards to gender and racial, ethnic diversity, the STEM workforce falls far behind equality. In the US, 3 racial and ethnic groups have been historically underrepresented. These are African Americans, Latinx, Native Americans, and Alaska Natives. Each group faces unique challenges, but commonalities exist between their rates of representation and their experiences in STEM. The STEM demographic gap is closely aligned to the achievement gap that has been the focus of education efforts for the last 2 decades. Neighborhood poverty continues to impact overall access to quality education, extracurricular activities, and technology in the home. Even the most motivated student will struggle if he or she attends a school without well-equipped teachers, or if his or her parents do not know about or cannot afford enrichment activities, and if he or she cannot pay for college. Yet access to resources alone do not create the demographic gap. Increasingly, educators and employers are becoming aware of the existence of bias and discrimination at the individual, organization, and the systemic levels. And as we know, these forces are more complex, intransigent, and uncomfortable than any other, yet they will continue to impact the composition of the overall STEM talent pool from K-12 education through post-secondary and into the workforce. And though progress has been made in the past 2 decades to increase representation of women and people of color and other groups in STEM, there is still a long way to go. And part of the solution would be to create more equitable opportunities and inclusive environments so that people of all different backgrounds can have the ability to pursue, persist, and thrive in STEM. So though the STEM talent challenge is complex, there are many opportunities for K-12 educators to help students see themselves in STEM. Our next guest, Paula, will provide an overview of how students can be inspired to pursue a career in STEM. Paula?
Thank you, Patrika. It's wonderful to be here and to follow up such amazing information. Hi, everybody. I'm Paula, and I am sharing my screen here because I have some links and some things that I want to share with you. So I'm going to talk about my experience engaging learners using student-led research projects to inspire their thinking about STEM careers. So following everything that Patrika just talked to us about, you know, how do we help our diverse students see themselves in STEM? So how do we just first light that spark? That is what I'm going to focus on. I was that person in the chat who said that, that my first experience with STEM was in 4th grade. Mr. Grandy had us do book reports, and I chose Jane Goodall, and it was just a total whim. And that was the beginning of my love for science, and she's still my idol. So that was my spark. And so how do we light that spark? And so for me, student-led research projects as a science teacher has been my go-to. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples of how I've done this in the past and how that's evolved, and also the PBS LearningMedia video resources and how you can curate that media for your students. So the STEM Career Research Project. Students do an independent research or they do their own independent research and present a report based on a rubric. These 2 pictures show what I've done for many years, how I've assigned the independent research project. Students stand up in front of the class, or should I say before they stand up in front of the class, they do their own research. They pick a career in STEM to do a deeper research on based on their own choice. Sometimes they choose to do a poster, or should I say those pictures at the bottom were of posters that they did before we did everything digitally. There are tons of resources on the web for students to sift through out there. Students can share in small groups what they've learned or present in front of the class. And I've definitely done several years of this. I mean, probably going back 10 or 15 now. I'd love to do a quick poll in the chat to see how many people out here have done something like this in their classrooms. How many people have ever done this kind of project where they've done a STEM career report or independent research project in their classroom? If you have, you can just put a Y in the chat. Anything like this before, where kids do a research project and they pick a STEM career for themselves to research? Well, I've been doing this for many, many years, like I said, and I started to think about everything that Patrika had mentioned, and I reflected on how I was addressing the issues like the belief gap, the demographic gap, and I thought about how doing this kind of independent research project was meeting the needs of my students, of my diverse students, and maybe not so much. So I was reflecting on how I could do a better job. And what I wanted to show you was some of the iterations of how my independent research projects have changed over the years. Okay, so what I have changed over the past couple of years is kind of a blended learning approach. So especially we're all familiar with blended learning now that we've been online and remote over the past year. And so this is one of the iterations when we were remote last year. But I think that it translates even when we're back in the classroom. So the expansion of the independent research project using the 5E method to deepen engagement and remove learning barriers. And what I mean by the 5E method is where the kids engage, explore, elaborate, explain, and then evaluate about a STEM career. And this is what I am talking about. So I made a website that all of you can access, and Angelica has put the website in the chat, and if she hasn't, I will put it in shortly, that all of you can look at this and see how I laid out the STEM Careers Project. Now, the idea here is that the kids start by engaging with a video by Dr. Nemaya Mabry, and it shows all about how STEM is one of the largest, one of the ways that kids can access many careers, and how everything is changing, and all of the things that Patricia just touched on. And one of the most important parts that I've changed since doing an independent research project is where I give the kids a chance to discuss. And the other thing that I gave a thought to in the demographic and belief gap is special attention towards my multi-language learners and giving them a chance to translate and use video and all that YouTube has to offer, where they can use closed captioning and translating the video. So I have how to translate down here. Then I have a place where students can explore STEM career videos. We have software engineer, biomedical, mechanical engineer, and electrical engineer. Now this video that's spinning right now, I think it's because I'm on Zoom and my home internet is a little slow right now, but this is actually a video that's in Spanish with English captions. And it's a Spanish speaking electrical engineer, female actually. And these videos are from PBS LearningMedia that I've downloaded. And on my next slide, or part of this presentation, I'm going to show you how to do that. So this is where I ask students to watch, think, and write. And also, again, to share with a partner or group. So the important part for my multilingual learners and also my students of all backgrounds is for them to get a chance to discuss what they've seen and how they see people of all different backgrounds. I've chosen and curated video of people of different demographics in these STEM jobs. And I ask the kids to think about what the people are doing, where they are, what kind of life they seem to be leading, and so that they can visualize themselves in these jobs. Then there's time for them to explain where they're doing their own research. So because of time, I'm going to give you guys a chance to kind of go through this website on your own. But the gist is that the explain part is where they do their own research. And this is the part where they get to choose their own career, STEM career, to go deeper into. So the idea here, where they're exploring, they explore together. It's kind of the I do, we do, you do part. They explore together, get to discuss with each other, and then they get to choose their own STEM career. Now, at the bottom here, they have a digital choice board. So instead of just a poster or a slides deck, they have many different options for how they're going to present their material. That's the whole voice and choice idea. Also in my website here, I have many other resources with different videos and a whole playlist. And I am happy to share this all with you. Now, in this website, there is also the rubrics, and anything you see here is a forced copy that you are welcome to use. Now, going back, I know that not everybody has time. This is something that takes me a week, 2 weeks, even 3 weeks sometimes. Again, I'm a middle school teacher. I do this with 7th and 8th grade students. If there's not enough time, this is a way that I've shortened the assignment, where I've taken those videos and taken time to kind of shorten it down, where the kids watch the video, do some observations independently, and then come back to a group on the second slide. And this is what the assignment looks like. Actually, it's hard for me to get to my, I apologize here. Let me get down here. There it is. So the assignment gives them a chance to look at the video, do some observations, and think about how STEM was used to do or make something, and then to talk about it, write about it, and then at the bottom to explore more. Instead of doing a full independent research project, to do some research on their own and then kind of reflect on it. It's kind of like a 1 to 2 day little lesson where they can explore science careers or STEM careers on their own. Again, there's a forced copy linked for you in the chat for you to use so that you can do this on your own or in your classroom if you'd like. So these videos, again, are from PBS LearningMedia, and this is what I'm going to show you next, how to find any of these or some of these videos for yourself. So there are tons of career profiles on PBS LearningMedia. So these are some of the tips and tricks I'm going to show you in just a moment. Video profiles of STEM professionals are about 2 to 5 minutes. Some of them are a little longer. I think that they are invaluable because, especially to help take some learning barriers away from our students with learning disabilities, our multi-language learners, it really helps with accessibility. And one of the ways that you can find these videos is on PBS LearningMedia. You can go to the search bar up here. And if you type in STEM careers or careers in STEM, either one, and you were to press the search button, you'll get 3,150 search results. So one of the things you want to do is filter on the left side and hit the collection button or the video button, and you will narrow your search. Okay, the collections are a great way to look at video, or should I say, look at smaller collections and see, like this one, the STEM Career Labs is a newer collection, and you can see that some of them are in Spanish, and sift through by career. Now, one of the things I wanted to show you was that you can download some of the videos, which is what I did with my website and with this assignment. When you download them, you can embed them into assignments, and you can also find many transcripts, like a full word-for-word transcript to the video, which is also helpful for our multilingual learners and for our special ed students. So look for the support materials on the right. And before you download any of the videos, you want to think about adding the closed captioning. So those are some of the things I wanted to talk about for tips and tricks when you go to PBS LearningMedia to access all of these wonderful videos. I wanted to send you all off with something to do in your classroom tomorrow if you needed, to inspire our kids to start seeing themselves in STEM. With that, I'm going to send it back on to Carolyn. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Paula. Okay. And you may have noticed when Paula was showing you the page on PBS LearningMedia, there was an outline of a heart at the top of the page, and that if you click on the heart, it fills in, and then you can, you're saving it to a favorite. All right, I'm going to just acknowledge Francis Pina, who I mentioned at the top of this, who was not able to join us tonight. He had a family emergency, and we're very sorry and wish him well. And actually, it looks like, oh, here we go. Great. He had a beautiful presentation prepared, and he is planning on recording it, and we'll make that available as a separate file, or actually put it into the recording of this at some point. But I wanted to just give you a taste of that. He pulled this clip from YouTube, and it's about the inspiring moment when Neil deGrasse Tyson met his idol of Carl Sagan. I'm just going to play a little snippet of it here. And
sure. Hello.
He's getting his makeup put on for a program, and I'll just advance it a little bit to where you see some of him talking.
And he invited me to visit Cornell, where he was on the faculty. But I was 17 years old, so he didn't know me from anything. He got my name because I had applied to Cornell for college, and my application was dripping with the universe. I already knew that's where I wanted to land. And they sent, I hadn't decided yet, and they sent my application to him for his comment. He immediately sent a direct letter to me at home saying, oh, I do astrophysics at Cornell, and of course I knew that. He was already famous. Hadn't done Cosmos yet, but he was on the Late Show with Johnny Carson, the then premier talk show in the evening, and it's back in the 70s, because that's how old I am. And
okay, I just wanted to give you a taste of that. We're going to turn it over to Kara Pekarsik. Of course, not everyone gets a chance to meet their science idol. There are other ways of making this work. Okay, Kara, go ahead.
Great. Thank you, Carolyn. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I will just give you a heads up. My dog has just moved over right next to me. So at some point, you'll probably hear her. So just to give you that warning, don't be surprised. I'm so excited to be here this evening. And as we saw already, there are really a number of reasons to promote STEM and a number of ways to promote STEM. And I wanted to share one more with you and then ask you a quick question. So this is another resource on PBS LearningMedia called Choosing a STEM Career. And I've listed some of the STEM careers that are highlighted when you go to this resource, including healthcare, space sciences, mathematics, even things like auto mechanic are highlighted on here. But one of the things that I personally think is missing from a lot of STEM career exploration is that of a STEM educator. So my question to you, Carolyn, if you want to bring the poll up.
Yes, we did a poll. Yes, we did.
Yes.
Okay.
So the question coming up will be, have you ever encouraged your students to pursue a career as a STEM educator instead of just a the mechanical engineer or a doctor? If it comes up, if not, we can put it in the chat box too. That's
I
not
think
a
it's going to
problem.
come up now. Let's
Okay,
see.
excellent. There we go. So have you ever encouraged your students to pursue basically what you're doing as a STEM educator, in addition to some of the other careers that you may also share with them? So we'll give it just another second here. Excellent. All right. This is actually what I expected, because I will admit that up until not very long ago, I was the same way, that I probably did not include this in my discussions about STEM careers. And so I just want to take a few minutes of your time tonight to tell you a little bit about some of the reasons why I believe this is an important one to also share with our students. So when we're thinking about STEM teachers and why we matter, and I was going to do a really bad joke about science right there, but I'll just leave it and you can figure that out for yourself. As we heard from Patrika, and as I think all of us already know, STEM jobs are the future of our economy, but it's not something that many of our students are actually pursuing. And so I just wanted to take a minute to, first of all, thank you for all of your hard work, and also remind you that what you are doing is important and is something to promote for our students to consider as they move forward in their education. And one of the reasons would be because of the types of instruction and curriculum that we're able to provide for our students. So we are able to give instruction with specific focus on hands-on learning with real-world application. And I think that that's hugely important for our students. And if you think about it, you are touching thousands and thousands of students. If I've been teaching for 16 years now, I generally have more than 100 students a year. All of those students are learning hands-on real-world application skills, as well as enhancing their skill sets for the future. We're teaching them project management and teamwork. We're teaching them about critical thinking, problem solving, and innovation. And we heard from Patrika that those are skills that are vital to a career in STEM. And so it may not be that they have to actually do the STEM career. Maybe they continue to keep this excitement and to keep this movement forward towards building STEM careers in our students through the use of education. Another way that I think that STEM educators are super important for our students is because we are actually helping to contribute to connections in the STEM community. And so one of the ways that we do that, I'm sure many of you have held a STEM day, or this being Massachusetts STEM Week. Happy STEM Week to everyone out there in Massachusetts. This being STEM Week, this is an opportunity for us to really highlight some of the careers that we have that our students can pursue, and to take some time maybe out of the normal curriculum that we have to embed this. If you have no other time during the school year, at least to do it here. My school personally this week, we're holding some career exploration activities after school, and we're also using the TVs that we have throughout the school building to highlight diverse STEM careers, including some of the Nobel Prize winners and other scientists that look a lot like our students, because we have a fairly diverse school where I work. So that's one of the ways that we as educators are really making a contribution to STEM careers. I also think as STEM educators, we really are able to enlighten our students and just open doors to them through bringing guest speakers. I often coordinate with local colleges. I've had UMass Boston professors and professors from other universities actually do Zoom calls before we were on Zoom way too much, but come in and actually do Zoom calls with my students to tell them about their research, to show them what their lab looks like. Many students associate our classrooms with a lab and don't really know what a true lab looks like. And so just this access and this ability to bring this into the classroom, we have the ability to do that. And it's something that we should encourage if students are interested in being an educator. Maybe this is the type of education that they want to do. You can share career videos like all of the great resources that we have on PBS LearningMedia, and also help to connect our students with mentors. Many science teachers or STEM teachers out there, sorry, I'm a science teacher, so I always say science. Many of our STEM teachers out there know others in their actual careers and in these fields, and can help to connect our students so that they can learn more about the potentials for them out there. So again, we really have this opportunity to make this gateway. The pictures that I have on this particular slide are showing some of the ways that I help my students to become interested in STEM through field trips and experiences with guest speakers and doing those hands-on experiences that I talked about. There are other ways, and that's through creating authentic experiences for our students. And one of those is through citizen science. And that, Carolyn, I think the next slide we can go to now. This is another resource on PBS LearningMedia. And again, Carolyn will be sending you a list of these resources with the links so that you can go directly to this. And this is a Citizen Science American Spring Live. These are little videos that are going to explain some citizen science projects that are happening all across the nation. Whether you're in Massachusetts or whether you are in another location across the country, there are most likely citizen science projects that are taking place in your area. Here in Massachusetts, we have the Bud Burst project that goes on each year, looking at when trees are actually producing their buds to look at climate change. And there are many others around that you can get your students involved in. And these videos here are just doing a little kickstart to think about some of these citizen science projects. And if you don't have any in your area, as a STEM educator, this is the stuff we live for, right? To be able to actually create citizen science and get our students out into the field doing those hands-on activities. I think we can go to the next one, Carolyn. So another way that we can do this is by exposing our students to some of the additional types of projects that are happening, or showing them experiences that they can see themselves in. Again, this is another experience here, and this is Sci Girls, and Sci Girls have videos that show role model profiles of women in science. You can also look at things like Project Lead the Way that are going to help to promote marginalized groups in science and STEM, and those are excellent resources that you can use in order to help demonstrate these authentic experiences for our students. And one of the last ways we can do this, and there are many, but I only have so much time tonight, but one of the last ways is by getting our students involved in science fairs. And I know personally, a lot of my students hear the word science fair and it's because they don't see the value in science fair. But I think that if we as educators start to change our thinking about science fair and really focus on the skills and the application of what they're doing to their future, I think our students will really start to see the value of something like science fair. At my school, we are in like our 67th year of hosting science fair, with 1 year absent due to COVID. And so for us, this is an ongoing tradition that we keep trying to make better and better every year. And in Massachusetts, Carolyn, you can go to the next slide. We do have a very well-run science and engineering fair at the state level, and our students participate in a school fair and then are able to go on to regionals and states. And at my school, we've even had students move on to the international fair, which is now known as the Intel ICEF fair. And so this is really a wonderful opportunity to expose our students to ways in which they can run experiments and they can actually do science and do real science that they can experiment with and also present to others. So I think that's a really great opportunity. PBS LearningMedia, next slide, please, Carolyn, also has some science fair videos, some little pieces of information that you can use to kind of engage your students in thinking about science fair. And I love these videos because they're not just the typical experiments that you might find out there. These are fun experiments having to do with food or with things that students can relate to really start getting a kickstart in their brain about projects that they might like to do. And then finally, I wanted to focus on our role as STEM educators in modeling STEM experiences. So you can go to the next slide, Carolyn. I really feel like teacher externships and getting yourself involved in STEM that is happening right now is such an amazing opportunity for you, as it also is for your students to see you modeling a love of STEM and to see you learning more about current topics in your field. And so I just wanted to highlight a couple of ways to think about this. So I personally have done a number of externships in my life that have changed my thinking about education and have changed my thinking about certain topics and how I do them. One of them is a program called Polar Trek, where I actually went to Antarctica and spent time with researchers doing research off of an icebreaker. But there are many others around. In fact, if you are able to look online, I Googled teacher externships today, and there were just tons from different states all across the country. There's the NOAA Teacher at Sea program. And I put that picture up there because that is Dr. Cyan Proctor, who is a geology teacher and professor, but she also just recently piloted one of the Dragon X spaceship trips to space. So a teacher doing some amazing things out there. There are many other ways that you can do externships for various types of STEM fields. Mathematicians working on GPS coordinates and mapping on the bottom right-hand side, technology teachers going and looking at manufacturing companies and looking at how they are making some of our electronics and some machinery better for use in the world. And even just teachers going and visiting labs and actually getting some hands-on experience there are the ways in which we as teachers can see ourselves in STEM as well, and then can help our students see themselves in STEM. And I think that really will help to increase some of the excitement and some of the interest in STEM for our students. So we've got all of these great resources for you that we will share with you here today, but I also want you to think about how you yourself are a resource as well, and how you really can become a model of the love of STEM and STEM education for your students. So I hope you found some interesting information here tonight. And I think probably Carolyn will open it up for questions here in a moment, but I'll pass it back to her and she'll let us know how we're going to close out tonight.
Great, thank you very much. Oh, my mind is racing with all kinds of ideas, and I imagine the same is with for our educators in the room. We are a little ahead of schedule, so if you see something in the chat that you would like to respond to using the microphone, please feel free to do so, or go into the chat. And we'll take a couple of minutes to pause here before I go to my final remarks.
And please feel free, if you have any other questions, let us know. You can unmute, you can add them to the slide. We know how to raise our hands at this point, I think. So please let us know if you have any questions.
Right. Okay, well, you stay on screen and we're going to go through a couple of more tips and suggestions for people. So a lot of the resources that you saw from the presenters, they mentioned PBS LearningMedia. At the outset of the program, I showed a screenshot of pbslearningmedia.org, which is a free website. These are some of the collection banners that you find when Paula did her search and found a couple hundred plus STEM career collections. These are some examples of them. And in a collection in our world is a curated grouping of resources organized around a topic or sometimes a funder. And it's an easy way to have many links in one place. I want to give a shout out to The Secret Life of Scientists and Engineers, which is a NOVA project. There are some fabulous career videos in that collection. They're a little longer, 3 to 5 minutes. They also are appropriate probably for an older age group, but really top-notch production and just wonderful. The biotechnology collection is a collection that we did in collaboration with Amgen a few years ago. And aerospace engineering, we did a collection of that. GBH produced these and that was in collaboration with Boeing. And they include career videos like you see here. This one on the far right, she should look familiar to you. If you don't know her from anything else, you know her from being the current Jeopardy stand-in host. So Mayim Bialik, who's the neuroscientist, she's in the NOVA Science and Engineering collection. And then Mr. Barros and Susan Bustamante are in the biotech collection. This link right here, and this is on your resource document and probably in the chat, thanks to Angelica. This is a folder that leads you to, I didn't count, but I think there are 50 plus resources that I've saved in my account on PBS LearningMedia and then organized into a folder. So you can share, you can take this folder, log into the site, click on resources and save them yourself if they appeal to you. So I hope that works for everybody. pbslearningmedia.org with that number. All right, we are in the education department. We're very active in social media. We do post about events that we are hosting, like this one tonight, also new collections of resources that we're publishing. In addition to email, this is another way that we're able to communicate with you. We have very limited marketing budgets, so we really rely on word of mouth in many cases. All right, well, that's interesting. Oh, I'm going to my folder. I didn't want to do that, but that's okay. Let me get back to the slides here. Okay, let's see.
Your folder is really good, Carolyn, because it shows you that what you can do, everybody, is make your own folder and curate the resources when you heart them, and you can make a folder so that you can go back to them, which is what Carolyn did.
Yeah, good point. And also I have many, you can show them all at one time. You can also save a whole collection. So when you go to a collection page and again, click on that circle of a heart, you will you'll save it to your favorites. Okay, so I don't want to click on the link now. I want to go to the final slide, which is right here. All right, so we have a survey that we've created in collaboration with our research department. It can be anonymous. You can decide whether you want to identify yourself or not. And we really take your feedback to heart. So please take a minute and complete the survey. And at the end of that, you can download a certificate of attendance if you would like to. We've made many changes, and we keep trying to do better based on the feedback we get in those surveys, and also what we hear in the chat and what people send me in email comments, which is my email right here. So you are welcome to email me with any questions you have, comments, suggestions. If you are interested in stepping in the big shoes of Kara, Patrika, or Paula and presenting with us in webinars or looking at the Educator Ambassador Program, please let me know. We'd love to work with you. So thank you to our presenters. I know it's been a long STEM week for you and all of you who are on the call. We really appreciate you being with us tonight. And I'll keep the chat open for another minute or so. And if anybody has any final words, feel free to talk.